There is no doubt that the Game Boy has one of the best libraries of games for a handheld. So today we're going to be taking a look at 10 of the best games on the system. So first, there are a couple things I want to clarify. Number one, that we're only been looking at original gray cartridge Game Boy games. And if there are two versions of the game, meaning it has a black and gray cartridge, I will only be picking one of them. But I will put some gameplay in some of the color versions just because it looks a bit better. And also to let you know, the top 10 Game Boy Color games video will be the second part of this video. So there'll be no Game Boy Color games or Game Boy Advance games here. Well, anyway, with that out of the way, let's take a look at the top 10 Game Boy games. Number 10. Metroid 2. Of course, this is the sequel to the NES game, Metroid. This game actually did get remastered on a 3DS, and of course this game is a phenomenal game and it deserved that treatment. But of course, this game is just like any other Metroid side-scroller. Of course, there are a couple of different mechanics, such as you have a new type of weapon, and I mean, more or less, it's kind of the same as the original game. It's not exact, of course, but it's honestly a great Game Boy game, and it's definitely one that you should play if you definitely are a fan of Metroid. Of course, I'm not the biggest fan, personally, so it's a fun game, and I think anybody that really likes Metroid and the original Game Boy game, it's definitely fun. Number 9. Kirby's Dreamland 2. Kirby's Dreamland 2 was chosen just because I didn't really like the first game as much. Of course, that game is classic, but this game I like just a little bit better because it really expands it to its fullest. You have now an over kind of world where you can kind of go to the different levels, similar to the Kirby's Adventure game on the NES. And of course, now you have the animal buddies. You have also the copy ability, which wasn't present in the first game. You have to collect these stars. I'm not sure if they were in the original game, but they're definitely here as well. This game definitely takes what Kirby is now today, and from the original one, it's just a big step, right? And I really like this game. I like the color palette it also provides. It actually makes Kirby pink instead of, when he was undecided what his color was going to be. There's lots of items, interesting places, right? And I just really like this game, and it's definitely a fun one to add to your Game Boy collection. But yeah, definitely check this one out. Number 8. Donkey Kong Land. Of course, when Donkey Kong Country came out, that was a big deal, but porting it kind of to a handheld was unheard of. So what they did was Rare took a similar kind of idea and just scaled down the graphics and made them, kind of grayscale for the Game Boy. And honestly, it pretty much worked. Though I don't think the game is as best suited to play on an original Game Boy, just because the sprites can kind of be hard to see. So yeah, I would recommend playing with a Game Boy Color if you're going to play the game. But this game, I chose the original one just because it was, I think, a little more classic of a game. And the controls and everything kind of just feel better how the later ones do. And in this one, you actually play as Donkey Kong instead of some of the later ones when you play as, the other characters in the Donkey Kong franchise. But yeah, this one I chose was the best one just because it captures what the original Donkey Kong Country is, and just on a handheld. And I think it's a really great game overall. Number 7. Wario Land, Super Mario Land 3. After the horrible mess on the Virtual Boy with the original Wario Land, of course Nintendo had to put it to their handheld, which was a lot more successful. And of course, this game is more or less the sequel to the Virtual Boy game, and honestly, it plays pretty much similar to that one. This game is a lot slower than the later releases of Wario Land, but that pretty much doesn't make it a worse game. This game is honestly one of the best platformers I've played, and yeah, it's so much fun, and I enjoy the way that you can pick up enemies. The puzzles are interesting, the level designs are really, really good, and yeah, this is definitely one you have to play. Of course, just because it says Super Mario Land 3 doesn't mean it's a Mario game, so that I have to say is kind of weird. They probably just did that just because they wanted to clarify that it's part of the series that people would actually try it out. But yeah, this is a fantastic game and definitely one that you should play on the Game Boy. Number 6. Donkey Kong. Of course, the original Donkey Kong on the NES was a classic, and at first, the game might appear almost identical. But once you, of course, defeat Donkey Kong, you'll notice that things aren't exactly the same, and this game takes everything to a whole new level. In this version, it's a lot more puzzly, and of course this did influence the Mario vs. Donkey Kong games. Of course you have to collect things, and you have to get the key and bring it to the end. But the thing that makes this game interesting is that it kind of behaves a lot like Super Mario Bros. 2, that you can pick up enemies, you can also do backflips and different kind of moves, and it does make the game really interesting and fun, because you really have to try different moves to try to get up the level. But yeah, this is definitely a great game, and one that you should get in your Game Boy collection. Number 5. Super Mario Land. One of the launch titles for the Game Boy was, of course, a Mario title called Super Mario Land. This game actually is pretty similar to the original game on the NES, and it's pretty fun, and I have to say it's one of my favorites on the system just because of how easy it is to just pick up and play. Of course, in this game, a lot of things are really different. Instead of the Mushroom Kingdom, you're actually in Sarasa Land, and the princess that you're trying to save is Daisy. The enemies are different, Koopa Troopas actually now explode, and also your fireball can now pick up coins, and it's actually not really a fireball, more just like a bouncing ball. But yeah, there's a lot of different mechanics in this game that are really different from the original. That's why I think it sets apart, and it's kind of its own thing. Of course, this game was actually not created by Shigeru Miyamoto, so it was directed by someone else, so that's why it's so different. But I think that's one of the things that makes it really unique, and it's definitely one of the games that you should get in your Game Boy collection. Number 4. Tetris. Of course, the launch game for the Game Boy was Tetris, and this is pretty much the game that got the Game Boy popular in the first place. Kinda like Wii Sports got the Wii popular. And yeah, this game was basically the game that anybody could pick up and play, no matter if they liked video games or not. The game would have scored a little higher on the list if it was, like the best game ever, and it is a good game, but I just don't think there's as much content in this game, and compared to some others on the list, it just lacks in a couple of areas. But yeah, definitely is a fun game, and one that you should definitely have in your Game Boy collection. I definitely do have I definitely love this game just because it was one of the first games I ever played on the Game Boy. And yeah, it was a launch game, and definitely also showed how you could connect two Game Boys together, and it was definitely amazing for the time. But yeah, Tetris. Number 3. Super Mario Land 2, the 6 golden coins. So of course there was another Mario game on the Game Boy, and that was Super Mario Land 2. And compared to the original Super Mario Land, this game takes everything to a totally new level. Of course, now Mario's sprite is a lot better. You have interesting places to go through. You actually have interesting places now with interesting different enemies. And each place actually is quite interesting. For example, there's a place where you're inside a giant toy Mario. There's one where you're in a giant pumpkin. There's one where you're in a miniature house. There's one where you're in a tree. There's also different cool power-ups, such as like the bunny ears, which help you float a little bit. You also have the fireballs, which actually are now fireballs. You'll of course have non-exploding Koopa Troopas and stuff like that, which is pretty cool as well. And there's just a lot of stuff here for a full game, and it's honestly one of the best games in terms of content and also in terms of the game. So definitely one that you should definitely play on the Game Boy. Number 2. The Legend of Zelda: Link's Awakening. Of course, Zelda, just like Mario, is another big deal. And this game is honestly really amazing for the Game Boy hardware. Of course, I'm showing you the Game Boy Color version just because it looks really nice, and the Game Boy version is exactly the same as the Game Boy Color one. So there's not much difference there. But this game is phenomenal. Just the amount of effort that they went to make this game stand out on the Game Boy is phenomenal, because there's great graphics for the system. There is a lot of items you can get. The storyline's also really nice as well. There's a lot of interesting places to explore, And yeah, just playing the game, the dungeons are fun, everything about the game is just fun. And yeah, I won't spoil anything just because a lot of you definitely need to play this game, and yeah, it's fun. And if you, of course, play this game, you'll know that, you know, it's definitely not like any other Zelda games. It's kind of like A Link to the Past almost in terms of its style. But yeah, definitely play this game because it's definitely awesome. Now for some honorable mentions which didn't quite make the list. Number 1. Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. Not only was the Game Boy the birth of Kirby, but it also was Pokemon, and of course, Pokemon just became one of the big phenomenons after this entry, which of course went really big, and one of the main reasons was just because of how interesting the game was, and you can just trade your Pokemon with other people. And I'd say this is one of the best Pokemon games, just because of how simple it is compared to the newer ones, and honestly, I just think it's one of the best ones. I know the graphics can look a little bit dated, but honestly, with the release of new Pokemon games coming out, it always seems to get more and more advanced, and this kind of is just simpler, and with the 151 Pokemon, this is definitely one of the greatest games on the Game Boy to play. Yeah, but in terms of all the places that you also visit in the game, the different Pokemon that you collect, and a lot of the different quests and side quests that you can do, is definitely an awesome game. And of course, that brings us to the end of the video. If you did enjoy it, make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new for new content coming in the channel. And of course, what did you think about this list? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, I will see you guys next time. Goodbye!